Hi guys, this is Tech Audi. I welcome you to this video tutorial series on creating image gallery with ASP.NET Core 2.1. In this video tutorial, we will be coding the AJAX update gallery method to submit the updated details of our image gallery. The first thing that we need to go ahead and do is create an empty array that will hold for us all the image IDs and all the image captions. So I've created an empty array called it gallery objects. The index position 0 will hold all the image IDs and the index position 1 will hold all the image captions. So for example, when our gallery is submitted and our gallery contains 3 image captions and 3 image IDs, so we will store them all in an array like this. So the first array will contain all the 3 image IDs and the second array will contain all the 3 image captions. So the order is reversed here. I apologize. So that's the correct order. So all the image IDs will be at index position 0 and all the image captions will be at index position 1. So when we want to access all the image IDs and all the image captions, we can access it from this gallery object array. So go ahead, create this array and initialize it to an empty array. The next step that we want to do is go ahead and write our AJAX update gallery method that will go ahead and submit our form using AJAX without any page refresh. So let's go ahead and do that. So the method has been created. Now make sure that when you go back to your index.html page, which contains your modal, so index.html page contains the modal, the edit gallery modal, the save button, when it is clicked, we are going to make sure that we call this method, which is AJAX update gallery. As you see, I have mentioned it in the form tag that when the form is submitted on submit, we want to prevent the default functionality of submission of what the button does, and we have to call the AJAX update gallery method. And we are going to pass the entire data of this form to this method's parameter. Therefore, when we go back to our method here, we are going to receive all the form data from the form which is passed into this method. Now we will have, if we want to access all the form data, we can access it through this object here that we received in our method. Since we received an object of form data, what we want to do is we want to first go ahead and create a new form data object so that we can edit all the data that we have received. So to create a new form data object, we will use the new form data API. As you know, this information is available at MD and Docs, and I have explained it clearly in my previous tutorials. So if you are using any HTML5 browser, you should have access to form data objects. When we create the new form data object, we are passing the values of our old form data to this new form data. So now this form data contains all the information that we have in our old form data. And now in order to edit the information, we can edit it in this form data object. So let's go ahead, and first thing what we want to do is get all the image IDs and all the image captions from this form data object. So let's do that. So to get all the image IDs and all the image caption, we will use the form underscore data, that's our objects, and call the dot get all method. And then we will specify the name of the object that's value we want to get. So you can find this information once again on MD and Docs. Just go to MD and Docs and you will get brief information on all these methods that you can access from form data. So the form data interface, as you see here, it has a method called as getAll. In order to get the value of a particular object, we need to specify the name of that object. So as we know, in our index.html, we have named our elements as image underscore ID in order to get the name value of that particular element, we have to use this name. Now, similarly, in order to get the values of all captions, we have to specify the name that we have used on the element. So if you go back to your index.html and I'm sorry, if you go back to your custom.js, when we are creating the table row dynamically, please make sure that you have the same names that I have used here. Like if you have used a different name, make sure you specify that name over here. Otherwise, you will not be able to access the value of the image IDs or the image captions. So I hope this is clear now. And now the next thing that we want to do is we are going to run a for loop. And with the for loop, what we are going to do is we are going to loop through all these image IDs and all these image captions. And then after looping through all these image IDs and image captions, we are going to push all the image IDs to gallery objects at index position 0 in this array, and all the image captions in our second array here. So let's go ahead and do that. So I have created a for loop, and when this loop will run, it will run on the IDs and it will loop through each ID, and it will then push each value from the ID to the gallery object 0, index position 0, and all image captions to gallery object 1. So I hope this is clear, and you can just specify the ID here. You don't have to specify captions because you know the length of both these elements, or both these elements value that you're going to receive is going to be same. So if you'll have 3 captions, you will have 3 image IDs. If you have 3 image IDs, you'll have 3 captions. So you can use either of the one. Either you can use captions.length or you can use IDs.length. It doesn't matter. The length of both these arrays are going to be same. Okay. So and I forgot to mention that the form underscore data dot get all, when it gets all the values, it's going to store it in an array. So this is basically an array. So if, as I told you, more information can be found on this website, which is MDN Web Docs. So now the next step is to run another for loop on these 2 arrays here, and then assign the value of each array's elements to this form data object. So we'll run the loop on, for example, on this image IDs array, and then each array we are going to add it to a form underscore data object. Now you would be thinking that the form underscore data object already contains all the old form data, which means it already contains the IDs and the captions. So why am I running this loop again and adding it to this new form underscore data variable? Uh, well, the reason is because this form underscore data variable doesn't know which image caption belongs to which ID or which image belongs to which image caption. Therefore, we are looping through this array in an order to make sure that image caption 1 belongs to image ID at position 1, image ID 2 belongs to image caption 2. So we have to make sure that we are assigning the values to the correct image IDs. Therefore, we are looping through the values again and assigning them the correct order. So let's go ahead and do that. So I have added the for loop, and the for loop, as you know, as I told you, that we are going to loop through each image caption and each image ID in these 2 arrays. Therefore, I've created 2 variables here. One variable will hold the value of the image caption and the second of the image ID. And then what we are doing is we are appending the values of each image ID to this image ID object in our form underscore data object that we created for submitting our form. Now we also have to make sure that after we have assigned the values, we delete the old values. Otherwise, when we submit this form data, we are going to submit values twice. So as I told you, this already contains your values of gallery, image IDs, and image captions. So if you're going to submit it without deleting the old values, you will submit the image IDs twice, the image captions twice. So make sure that once the value is appended, you delete the old values from the form underscore data. If you have watched the previous video tutorial on how we created the gallery using form data, I showed you with demonstration that how things work. When we submit the form, you will see multiple image IDs and multiple image captions when you create the new form data object. So you have to make sure that you delete the old ones. So now let's go ahead and proceed further with this code. The next step that we want to do is go ahead and create a variable called as ID. Now this is the ID of the gallery that we want to edit, because so far we have edited the image captions and the image IDs, and our form data contains the files as well that we are going to send, the updated files. Now we also have to make sure that the gallery title also is being sent to the database, as we are also going to edit the title. Therefore, we need to get the value of our gallery ID from the hidden element that we created in our model, and that's how we can get the value from the text. Now, the next step is to create a variable that will hold all our AJAX options that we need to use in order to submit this form using AJAX. So let's go ahead and code this AJAX options. So I'm not going to get into details because I've already explained how to use and submit the AJAX options. I'm just going to copy paste this code that I have already written. So let's go ahead and do that. So I have added the AJAX option. So as we know, the method is of type put, because we are going to update our gallery, and the URL that we are going to target when we are updating our gallery is API/gallery/the ID of the gallery that we want to edit. And all the data that we want to send that needs to be updated will be stored in our form_data object that we created. So we are going to assign that form_data object to our data. Then if the method call was a success, we will run a callback function where we will receive a result, and the result will be gallery updated successfully, and then we will be redirected to our index page. And if there was an error, we will again run a function then and alert the client that the gallery could not be updated. So this was all about our AJAX options. Now we need to submit these options. Before we submit these options, we have to make sure that the form data encryption type was multi-part form data, because we are sending files along with some bunch of text. So please make sure that when you create the form, you add the enc type as multi-part form data, because it is very important to do that if you're going to send files. Otherwise, you would not be able to send files. So then finally, we are going to submit the AJAX options, and we will send the content type and process data to false, and then we will send the AJAX options. So now let's go ahead and save this file. And that should be all for our AJAX functionality from the front end. So we are done with all the front end code. Now all we want to do is code our backend web API method, which is of type put, and which will be used in order to update our gallery. We will be doing that in our next video tutorial. So please like and subscribe our channel. Thank you for watching Tech Howdy.